Hey, everybody. What's going on? It's Uriah from Basketball Now. And then I'm joined here with Lucas Johnson. I'm here with Zach Ciavolella, who is the Sixers beat reporter and editor for Philly Sports Network and Metro Philly. What we're going to do, Zach, is we're going to open this comparison box. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we have a comparison box. What's in the box? What's in the box? So we're going to look at player relationships, teammates, and rivals. We're going to be comparing duos, and whichever duo stands out to you, you pick one or the other. Tell us what comes to mind. We can imply a little nostalgia or any memories we have. Nothing too serious, not super competitive, just which duo stands out. You guys ready?
I'm going to make this ultra competitive now.
Oh,
just because
thank you for doing that. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I have a feeling you're going to be coming after me.
Phrasing is important, Uriah.
Yeah. Well, let's get to the competition. All right.
Yeah.
So the first duo I have
Ooh.
is Magic Johnson and Kareem, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson.
That's not even fair.
Which stands out and why? Let's go to Zach first.
It's extremely tough because when you're looking at these two, you're looking at in Magic and Kareem, two guys who butt heads on more than one occasion, and then you look at Steph and Klay, and you're looking at have two guys ever been more in sync? When you talk about their play style together. So I think that's what stands out in terms of chemistry. You got to go Steph and Klay, but the fact that Magic and Kareem were so dominant is just, and I get it. The NBA was vastly different back then. Their skill set did not complement each other. They learned to play together. They did what Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid could not do, and they tried to do that in the area that was more conducive for it. You know
something about that, Zach, don't you?
Yeah, you got a little something about that. Yeah. So for me, it's Magic and Kareem.
Okay.
Much love to Steph and Klay, but overcoming the odds, even though they're the more talented duo, I think something about that just says what was so special about that time in Lakers land.
Okay.
So I'm actually going to... Okay, so let me break it down like this. I think talent-wise, Magic and Kareem are just better talents individually and together, right? You would say Magic is still a better point guard than Steph. You would say Kareem's, the best center in the NBA. Klay's a top 5 shooter, right? Kareem still beats Klay. But if I'm looking at impact here, and impact is probably more important, right? Especially the impact on how the game is played.
Right.
It's Steph and Klay. Because they changed the dimensions of the game, Magic and like Kareem. Yes, Showtime, Showtime. Lakers.
Are we trying to say that Magic and Kareem did not change the dimensions of the game?
Well, okay, let's talk about they played faster pace, absolutely, but other teams had played faster before too, and since, right? They maybe kickstarted it, but and obviously Magic changed. Big guys can be point guards, obviously. But I'm just thinking, maybe I'm a little bit biased because I didn't live Showtime.
Yeah, you
Lakers.
didn't grow up watching those.
But
players.
I did grow up watching these two, and they did change when they came into the league, power forwards were basically what we would say undersized centers are now, right? That was what was power forwards back then. But now power forwards are Luol Deng. Basically, right? OG Anunoby would be a small forward in the old NBA, right? So we got to keep that in mind. And granted, they're not the only ones responsible for that. LeBron is too, and I don't want to get into that whole entire thing. That's an off the camera thing. But talent wise, Showtime Lakers.
Okay.
Impact on the game in terms of how it is played now, Steph and Klay.
Well, who stands out more? Don't let Zach intimidate you, man.
Oh no, I'm going to stand on business. It's Steph and Klay.
Okay, all right.
They stand out more just because they made a bigger impact.
I'm going to throw one last jab. Do Steph and Klay stand out without Draymond and without Kevin Durant? That's my question: is do they stand out as much without those two?
Does Magic?
And we're talking about duos, so that's all I'm going to say on that.
Look, does Magic and Kareem stand out without Kurt Rambis and all those other supporting guys?
100% yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, here's the thing. For the rest of this exercise, forget any teammates. Just stick with the duos, and let's go to this duo. We got Dr. J and Moses.
See, now you're trying to piss me off.
KG, and Paul Pierce. I'm not trying to piss you off, Zach. I'm just putting it out there.
See, this is KG and Paul Pierce is when I
messenger.
first really started paying attention to the NBA, and that's not fair. Look, it's more impactful. I mean, they both only won one championship, so you can't really use that, right? Or who stands out more? We don't really talk about KG and Paul Pierce anymore, right? We still
they got their own show, and they're always on
but
social
they
media.
talk about themselves. We don't talk about them.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
I'm going to say Moses and Dr. J here because we still reference, they're still modern pop culture references. Well, maybe not modern.
That's
I don't know.
a safe answer. I like that. What do you think, Zach?
So we're looking at two historic franchises, historic in different ways. Both a lot of playoff success, one with a lot more championship success than the other. Looking at what and how important Moses brought the Sixers to the promised land. Like, that can't be forgotten. Again, the Sixers are a historic team, but what's documented along with, having to be in the playoffs, a lot, more so than most teams, a lot of failures in that time. Right. And so for Moses to be able to do what he did, and Dr. J, who was a true franchise player, right? So when you look at it's a very interesting comparison, because you have, the true franchise through and through wing in Dr. J and Paul Pierce, and then you have the mercenary who put him over the top in KG and Moses, right? So the comparison is fantastic. And the other thing too is, I know we're talking about duos. Neither of these two did it just as their duos, right? So don't even try, we can't even factor that in necessarily, right? They led the way, but Boston obviously had Ray Allen and Rondo, an immense team around Moses and Julius.
Yep.
For me, what's always going to stick out is it's going to be Philly. And the biggest reason I have for it is that Philadelphia has proven over the decades how difficult it is to build a winner in that city. Boston has had a little bit easier of a time, and that's a lot of front office decision making that's done very well. Yeah. But this is the last meaningful, and I'm overwriting the 0-1 finals appearance by AI, because they never had a shot against Kobe and Shaq, mostly Shaq.
No way.
Right.
No way.
Though Uriah will argue that if they should have kept Theo Ratliff.
What?
You talked to me about this. You said Theo Ratliff would have been a harder matchup for Shaq.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they should have kept him. I think it was the right move to get Mutombo, because Ratliff was injured. He was done. He couldn't even play the second half of the season.
Yeah. You got to get to the finals before you got to worry about Shaq and Kobe is the other thing. Right? But for Philly, this is the last time that they really had a meaningful finals appearance, and so or they were able to celebrate that finals victory, hold the Larry O'Brien. So I think what stands out more is just how much of an impact that had on the franchise overall.
Okay.
All right, let's do this one.
This is easy.
Which duo stands out? We got KD and Russ, and we have MJ and Isaiah. Zach, you go first.
All right, so it's easily MJ and Isaiah for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
This isn't an argument.
This is pretty simple. I mean, I think it's very interesting to put them up against KD and Russ, especially we saw how that relationship played out in later years, and obviously KD defecting for greener pastures in Golden State, and what the drama around all of that. But we're talking about some murderous ball that was going on between those Bulls and Pistons at times, and really, before Scotty, this was a real issue, right? So
it was.
For me, Jordan, in my opinion, and I factor things a little bit differently. I think it's tough to compare a center, for instance, to the rest of the positions in basketball. So you ask me the GOAT, I think Michael Jordan's the GOAT if we're talking about those guys, right? And so for you to be able to, in so many cases, hold off the GOAT from ascending to his throne, that's pretty dynamic. That stands out a whole lot, if you ask me.
A little animosity there still between these two?
I mean, man, I don't know. There's a lot of people who Charles Barkley famously has finally repaired his relationship with Michael Jordan. He's probably one of a handful of people who have a great relationship with Michael from the league back in the day. And that's that's just on a lot of old heads in general, but also Mike is Mike, and he doesn't change his ways for nobody else. So him and Isaiah, I mean, yeah, I don't see him and Zeke.
I got two words. I got 2 words why Mike and Isaiah are the better one. Dream team. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Dream team. Yeah. That's it.
All right.
Kept them off the dream.
Contentious.
Yeah. Contentious duos. I was not expecting that.
All right. Let's go with this duo. Lucas, I want to go to you first because you are a fan of the big man. So what do you think about Duncan, Robinson, Sampson, and Olajuwon? Who stands out?
See, this is not fair because Sampson got injured and just was not the same very early on. You still had a few good years of Robinson left before Tim took over the franchise. It's Tim and Robinson, but look, like if Sampson had actually stayed healthy, I the argument could be made, and they probably would have won more than just the 2 titles. Honestly, yeah. So yeah.
Listen, this is another extremely tough one. I think that people have forgotten a little bit about who Olajuwon was, and even more so who Ralph Sampson was.
Look, I'm not forgetting. I'm just saying
I'm not accusing you, man. I'm talking about
the sample
society.
size is too small.
You take it so personal, man.
I'm talking about
he's not coming after
I'm not
you.
talking about you. I'm talking about the average fan out there, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about 2 impressive giants who just that era of Rockets basketball was truly something.
Oh, absolutely.
But that being said, I don't think we're ever going to see a succession situation play itself out quite the way that David Robinson and Tim Duncan did for all of the, the delay to get Robinson into the league. And then obviously he suffers the injury and they land the number 1 pick that year. Then they get Tim Duncan. And it's like, you talked earlier about how the position has changed over the years, right? And so people question like, well, is Duncan really a center? Is he a power forward? Whatever. He could have been either, and so when you look at his ability to play alongside and their ability to complement each other, even in a different era, right, where it was more acceptable for that type of 2 big man lineup, the way that they just meshed and gelled it's something truly special. And I don't know. There's few pairs in the history of the NBA who I think stand out more than the Admiral and Tim Duncan.
Can I throw you guys a fun little hypothetical? So Tim Duncan was Mr. Fundamentals because he always knew how to do the bank shot from like the mid range. If Tim Duncan played in today's game, would you be getting bank shots from the 3-point line? I'm just saying, I feel like that's a thing that probably still would be happening.
The bank is open at the
bank is dead center, possibly.
I think you can bank from the side.
You can bank from the corner, but nobody's eyeballing a bank from the corner. Like Andre Drummond's hitting banks from the corners. Actually, Andre Drummond in his defense is a bit more of a sniper than I just gave him credit for. But
yeah, Drummond is actually. Shout out to him. He's going to get another contract, just not in Philly.
Not in Philly.
All right, how about this one, guys?
Ooh.
Which duo stands out more? And look, it's not always about teammates. This exercise, we got rivals. So we got Magic and Bird. We got Russell and Wilt. Who stands out more?
Okay, so listen here.
You're not playing fair. You're not playing fair.
Never said I was.
Been very critical of the debate between Wilt and Russ over the years because people do overlook the surrounding talent among
that's fair
both of those 2 and which directly led to that success. But that being said, the dynamic between Magic and Bird this is the epitome of basketball, if you ask me. Right?
Yeah,
we're talking East Coast, West Coast. Yep. We're talking like literally like what actually made Lakers Celtics what it is or what it was at its peak, I should say. We're talking about 2 guys who hated each other with every fiber of their being, right? We're talking about, I know people like they want to separate, basketball from aspects of life and things like that. but literally like the race component of this debate, I think is a major storyline that paints I think there's a lot of negative and terrible things that came out of that, but at the same time, I think it adds to the dynamic story itself, right? And so when you look at these two situations, and it's not even just the race component, it's the, and you can make the parallels wherever you want, but on top of that, there's the like, head down Larry Bird approach versus the showman Magic Johnson, which I think is a separate debate, right? There's so many different combating ideas between these two guys, like as individuals. I don't know that there's ever been a better story in the NBA.
The contrasts are strong. I hear you. And when HBO made that series Winning Time, that brought a lot of details, stuff that I didn't even know about Larry Bird's dad committing suicide, and obviously Magic coming up from Lansing, Michigan. But yeah, it's contrasting, and I'm glad you brought up the whole race thing, because I grew up in that era, and you felt that black, white, East Coast, West Coast, Boston, and LA, different play styles, different coaches. The irony is that you had a team that was mostly black in LA, coached by Pat Riley, and you had a team that was not predominantly white, but you had Casey Jones.
You had white stars. Yeah.
So, all right. So, Zach, you got Bird and Magic. What about you, Lucas?
So, the thing is, this comp is actually a lot closer than we give it credit for, because, like Magic, Wilt was a showman. Wilt was the absolute showman of the 60s for the NBA. And Russell was the grinder of the NBA during the 60s. So, and those comparisons, they're actually pretty similar, but this is where it differs. While there was racial tensions in the 60s, it wasn't like they were on opposite sides of it, right? They were both on the same side, though Russell was much more involved than Wilt ever was, not to bash Wilt. But here's where it differs. Zach's right. Bird and Magic hated each other. They despised each other. But Bill and Wilt were actually friends off the court. Wilt would stay with Bill after games.
Right.
Like that's the thing. Like they didn't and Bill dominated Wilt. Like there was the two ones that Wilt won was because Bill was injured or not there. Right. Okay? Let's be absolutely clear, right? Versus and Wilt kept on changing teams. That's the other thing. Bird has 4 titles, Magic has 5, right? Do I have that count right?
Yeah.
So
3 or 4.
3. They went back and forth. They went back and forth on this, and the numbers being like 32 and 33. Like come on, that's pretty.
Russell has more rings than all those 3 guys combined, I think.
Yeah, we're not debating. Look, if the debate was who has the most championships, this is clearly Russ. And I will say, if we're counting the best player in terms of championships, then Bill Russell is the GOAT.
Yeah. Robert Horry's pretty far up there too.
Yeah, he would be 7. Too. But that's the 7 rings. Look, give Robert a big shot Bob his due. But in the meantime, what I will say is, it's Magic and Bird, but. Yeah. I would have enjoyed being around the Wilt and Bill rivalry, probably more just because I like watching big men go at it versus wings, which yet again, not a bust on them. I think my preference would be to watch that rivalry, but the better rivalry was Bird and Magic.
Okay. How about these duos?
Ooh,
not teammates, but opposing players. You got LeBron and Steph, and you got AI and Kobe. Which duo stands out?
I'll go first. It's LeBron and Steph, because Kobe and AI only met once in the NBA Finals. Once. These guys met 4 years in a row.
That's a good point.
4 years in a row, 4 or 5 years. It doesn't matter. It was a long time that maybe 3. I honestly can't remember, but they met multiple times in the finals in years in a row. And they both, like I said earlier, were both the face of the franchise face of the NBA until very recently. Both defining a generation.
Okay. All right, Zach.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think that the reason why I go with LeBron and Steph, it has almost mostly to do with LeBron, if that makes sense. So the hill that LeBron has constantly battle to climb throughout his career is not to be great. He's been very clearly great, but it is to have that consistent global recognition of greatness without trying, right? So LeBron has been very clearly trying to persuade the public, to show the public how great he's been for years and years and years. And that goes back to, just the battle of him and Jordan is really what it comes down to. Whereas Steph has been effortlessly, I should say, embraced as an alpha in this league, as a transformative player.
Right.
Not a ton of Steph haters throughout the league, even though he has clear flaws in his game, right? And I can definitively say LeBron James is a better player than Steph Curry.
Oh, absolutely.
But when you look at the court of public opinion and just the public love had for Steph as opposed to LeBron, where it's been a lot more, he's a lot more of a polarizing figure, a lot more of a divisive figure, that gets under LeBron's skin.
Yeah, it does.
Unquestionably, that gets under LeBron's skin. And so I think that fuels that, and not to mention the conversation around rings with LeBron has been such a big thing. And that was his biggest monster that he faced, was the Warriors dynasty. So for me, that absolutely stands out more. When you talk about like two iconic guys at the position played at the same time, like Kobe, AI, I definitely see it. Like Lucas said, they faced each other in the finals once. And this competition was really largely dominated by Kobe, whereas
you had
Shaq, one of the most impressive championships that I've ever seen was LeBron raising his team past the injuries to overcome the Golden State Warriors, right?
Yeah.
And one of the most impressive teams that I've ever seen was led by Steph Curry. So for me, that's definitely what stands out.
Yeah, there's parallel narratives for both of these duos. You have Steph and Kobe both had dads that played in the NBA, whereas LeBron and AI didn't really have their dads in their lives. And the impact culturally with Iverson versus the impact of the game and the style with Curry and the shooting. I mean, this is a really great duo comparison, but let's go to the next one. We're almost done, guys. Which duo stands out more? MJ and Kobe or MJ and Barkley?
This is interesting. Right. So there's never been a player who, and I'm of the opinion, like I got the sun peeking through at me. I'm at the opinion that Kobe is not as high on my all-time list as he is some others. But that being said, if there has ever been a clone of Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant is pretty much as close as it comes.
Yeah. Agreed.
And so when you kind of look at it from that perspective, you look at the total timeline of basketball, the history of the game, everything like that. That's what stands out there. But what is so much more interesting for me is the human component between Charles Barkley and Michael Jordan. The friendship, the later hatred, as I already talked about, the return to friendship just recently, right? We're still talking about MJ and Charles. And obviously it helps that they're both still here. But the dynamic between the two has never been anything but interesting. I mean, everything from competing against each other in the league for years to, making Space Jam together. Like, there's just so many like interesting high level, low level things between Charles and Michael and they were both just two larger than life personalities in the NBA. Where Kobe, like, for all that people want to say about Kobe and the positive, and I overall am a fan of Kobe's game and his time in the league professionally. That being said, just the entertainment that came out of MJ and Chuck, I just think is next level.
Okay, you go on Charles and Jordan, and what about you, Lucas?
I mean, I think the more interesting comp is, like, it would have been really cool to see Kobe and Jordan play against each other in their primes. And like you said, Kobe is the closest thing that we're ever going to get to Jordan ever again, because players don't play like those guys do nowadays. I would say probably the closest one would be Anthony Edwards, but still, he's completely different than those guys in terms of play style now. So, look, I wasn't around too much for the Shaq and not Shaq, sorry, Charles and MJ, but I was around a little bit more for the MJ and Kobe aspects of this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say MJ and Kobe here.
Yeah, one duo is more of a mentorship relationship, and the other is more friendship, contemporaries with MJ and Chuck. And to your point, Zach, I love the fact that these two are finally burying the hatchet, or at least MJ is. I think Chuck has been more than willing to reconcile. But look, golf solves everything, right? People going out in the golf course.
The thing is, Chuck was never wrong. Let's get that on the record. Like, he critiqued MJ, for the way that he ran the Hornets organization, and Chuck was an analyst at the time, right? So let's just get that.
He was doing his job. He was doing his job.
MJ was not a good executive. We can agree on that. Or owner, really.
All right, we got two more duos to look at. Actually, we have this one and I think one more. So we have Jamal Murray and Jokic, or Gary Payton and Sean Kemp. For whatever reason, whatever the relationship, which duo stands out?
Lucas, you want to take this one first?
Yeah, I'll go with the duo that's actually won it all. And look, Sean Kemp and Gary Payton are two Hall of Famers, all that, but Nikola Jokic is the guy. Let's be real. Like, arguably now, you can argue now he's the most balanced offensive player, offensive center in NBA history, and one of the more balanced offensive players in NBA history. He's a 3-level scorer. He can dribble. He can pass. And Jamal Murray's game complements him very well. Jamal got his first All NBA this year. Good on Jamal. Has he got an All-Star yet? I don't think he has.
Well, he got his first All-Star this year. He didn't get an All NBA.
I thought he got All NBA. Okay, my bad.
No, it was All-Star.
Okay, my bad. So he got his first All-Star. Yeah. Look, and Sean Kemp, Gary Payton, Hall of Famers. Gary Payton.
Actually, Kemp is not in the Hall of Fame. No,
really?
He's not.
Oh,
nope.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Didn't make it. Well, Gary is though.
Gary is, and one of the best, defensive guards in NBA history. Good on Gary. But if I'm ranking who's the better, superstar of this duo, it's Jokic, and it's not even close. So I'm going to go with Jokic here.
Remember, though, it's not all about who's better; it's just who stands out. I
think these two stand out. They won a championship. You got a 3-time MVP on that group.
That's fair. Okay.
Yeah, listen, I don't disagree at all that Nikola Jokic stands out. Where I struggle is how much does Jamal Murray really stand out? Because I think he's a very talented player. I think he actually should have been. He's been an all-star level player far beyond just this year in terms of the numbers that he's put up. A lot of that's just a loaded Western Conference, other stuff like that. But when it comes to duos, Jamal Murray is replaceable. Do not get that twisted. Like, you put
that's fair. That's fair.
Put Tyrese Maxey in that situation. Like, there's a lot of uplifting coming from Nikola Jokic in this situation, right? And so when I look at Supersonics and I look at Gary Payton and I look at Sean Kemp, they were Sonics basketball for such an extended period of time. And the fact that they were Sonics ball and Jokic was Nuggets ball, like, to me, like, that, you're looking at the strength of the duo versus the strength of a singular impressive, like, all-time great player. Yeah. But we're talking about a duo, and I think that the way that not only did they, in a certain regard, right, they kind of needed each other, right? Yeah. Whereas Nikola Jokic just needs a shooter,
Yeah,
and so
that's a good point.
It's that irreplaceability between those two that gives them the edge in my book.
I love that. I love that. I did not expect that, but that was interesting.
Well, you could argue that Sean Kemp was replaceable. You could have put in like Larry Johnson in that situation. I think you get a similar. They're both high flying forwards that have similar skill sets. Am I wrong?
Right, but what you're talking about there is you're talking about a player who is of a certain talent level, right? And so I just don't think that Murray's talent level is of that minimum requirement. I think that his play, like, you put Sean Kemp on other teams, he's still an impressive player. You put Jamal Murray on other teams, maybe he looks a little bit more like Cole Anthony. That's what I'm saying.
That's a harsh take there.
Well, I did not think that this part of the segment would get this much conversation.
I thought Mo Williams would be a better comparison.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
okay.
Mobley is another great example, and I mean, like, prime Cole Anthony. I'm not trying to slight him. What I'm saying is more so like he's probably more like a 16, 17 point per game scorer
Yeah, that's
as opposed to a guy in the 20s.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
All right. Actually, I got a couple more for you. All right. Steph and KD or LeBron and D Wade?
This is a no-doubter for me. I get it. They're a part of the greatest team to ever play the game of basketball in a singular season. Move Steph and KD to the side. LeBron and Wade were the most impressive tandem of players to ever play the game of basketball. I put them up there with Kareem and Magic in terms of how impressive they were, how dynamic they were together. And honestly, if it had happened a little sooner or if it had lasted a little longer, obviously Wade's game just didn't live up long term to what they were trying to accomplish in Miami. And they ran into it's part of the issue of the 3-star system versus the 2-star system, which I've been a 2-star guy as opposed to a 3-star guy historically. Okay. And I think that as much as I love Chris Bosh, and I think he's been underrated by most people historically.
Yeah,
I think if they built around Wade and LeBron and again had a little more money to kind of fill out the roster from there, you're probably looking at an even more dominant Miami Heat team. So for me, Miami starts with Wade, it starts with LeBron. Miami LeBron is the most impressive player I have seen personally in my lifetime. So and I'm born in 95, right? So like that's the grain of salt that you got to take that with. I'm working with a rather small window comparatively, but I just that team was so dynamic, and there's a little bit of what could have been. Whereas Steph and KD, as impressive as they were, it's very much right place, right time with how that TV deal worked out for them.
Yeah, look, there's that, and then just the whole entire look. I agree with you. Miami, LeBron James prime. It was in his prime when he was in Miami. He was in his prime.
Yeah,
physically, everything. Now he was a smarter player his second stint in Cleveland, but that's not the point here, right? I also want to say D Wade sacrificed a lot of his game to make it work with LeBron because Dwayne Wade during his prime could have easily averaged 20 to 30 points a game. He went down to like 22, 23 points per game or 21. Yeah, something like that. I can't remember the exact numbers. I'm estimating here. But look, Steph didn't really have to sacrifice all that much of his game for KD. KD didn't sacrifice.
I don't know about that one.
He went from like 27, like maybe 27, 28 down to 25.
It's not just points. I think it was like touches and like the whole system itself had.
Well, that's
the thing.
Like, okay, so that's the other.
These
part
are NBA
of
players. I'm just saying, NBA players said that Steph had to hold back.
And here's the other aspect of it. That duo fit because of the system. They had to create a whole new system and a whole new way of playing basketball. Really, because you couldn't play a traditional power forward with those two guys. Right. You couldn't. Chris Bosh had to shift to the 5 because Joel Anthony was a dud on offense during the NBA Finals against the Dallas Mavericks. I'm right.
I mean, the man was 87 years old. I think we can cut him a little bit of slack.
I don't care how old he was. None of the centers on that team had a chance to do anything offensively. Yeah. You had the shift, and that basically. And this brings me back full circle because the Steph thing earlier with, me talking about how the Warriors changed the way of playing. It started while the Warriors were the main catalyst. The beginning of it started with Miami and LeBron, with Bosh shifting to the 5.
Okay.
And so but I agree with Zach. I think, they're both like top players in the league, but physically imposing LeBron James and D Wade, and they have one of the most iconic posters of all time too.
When he's like,
when he's like, put out his arms and LeBron's dunk. Yeah, look, and that was the first time we ever saw like a players organize a super team. So yeah.
All right, this is our last duo
you
comparison.
Promise? You promise?
I promise. Yeah, okay. This is definitely the last one. All right, we got MJ and Pippen, and we got Kobe and Shaq. Which duo stands out?
You're not playing fair.
I'm going to defer to you on this one, Lucas. As the guest, I'm going to reserve that right and defer to you.
Oh, why you got to put me on the spot? Okay, let's break them down first. Pippen and Jordan won 6 titles. Kobe and Shaq won 4, but Kobe and Shaq broke up before they should have. Technically,
so they won 3 together. Kobe won 5 total. Shaq won 4 total.
You're right. Sorry, I got that messed up. And technically, you could argue that the Bulls should have won more too because Jordan took off 2 years.
Yep.
Neither duo really wanted to play with the other. Scottie felt like he could have done more. Kobe thought he could have done more, right?
Yeah.
Look, one defined a whole generation of basketball, like a whole decade of basketball. The other one defined like maybe half a decade, maybe. So, look, much respect to Shaq and Kobe, but the answer here is Jordan and Pippen. And
All
like,
right.
yeah.
So I take a little bit of a different angle on this one.
Okay.
I think that they're both. I mean, these are two like the top cases that we're talking about, and
Yeah.
you can very easily go with either answer, and I think that you're likely going to have a great case in your argument.
Of course, yeah.
When you look at Mike and Scottie, there's what if Mike wasn't so hell bent on claiming that he's the only reason Chicago was successful? Like, what if he gave Scottie his flowers? Like, that's one of the biggest what ifs in NBA history, I feel like. But that being said, I think that they did accomplish, even despite that, and that's to Scottie's credit, mind you.
Yeah.
They did accomplish a lot more just when you look at, what the opportunity they had was and what their success rate was. When you look at Kobe and Shaq, what's more polarizing, I think that's what makes it stand out for me, is just the opportunity that they let their egos get in the way of, and that they let pass them by, right? Because
egos.
Shaq and Kobe could, like, Michael and Scottie are one of the greatest tandems of all time, one of the greatest duos of all time. Shaq and Kobe are on that list, but how much further up that list would they have been if they just swallowed their damn pride?
Okay, you could make the argument that they had already ran their course because they lost 2 finals in a row together.
Right, but part of the reason why they didn't find that postseason success was that lack of willingness, right? So when you look at Scottie and Jordan, Scottie deferred, right?
Yeah,
because like he's Michael Jordan.
Right.
You're gonna
Exactly.
defer to Michael Jordan, right?
Exactly.
And whether that's what did it or whether it was Scottie being willing to do it that allowed for that to happen, it happened. Whereas in LA, that was constant friction.
Yep.
And
Friction, that's the word.
The fact that they were able to win what they won speaks to their talent level. But when you get to, well, what if they actually tried working together? There's so much more they could have done.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Zach. I think the Shaq and Kobe duo stands out because of their lack of cohesion toward the end. When, once that thread started getting pulled and the fabric fell apart, they tried to bring in Gary Payton and Karl Malone. Still didn't work out. They could have won more championships. But I do like
the idea of bringing in Karl Malone as a culture guy is insane. I gotta get that out.
Yeah, that's fair.
All I gotta say is
my counter argument to that is if Jordan didn't retire, I'm a conspiracy theorist about that, but that's not the point here. If Jordan wasn't gone from the league for 2 years, they would have won more too.
That's debatable. I still think Hakeem Olajuwon. They had no answer for Olajuwon. They had Vernon Maxwell. They could have beaten the Bulls, in my opinion. But I just want to mention Kobe and Shaq one more time. They were able to reconcile before Kobe passed. The flip side is that Jordan and Pippen, they were straight. They were good when they played. But then years down the line, someone mentioned the documentary. All of a sudden, there's friction. And it's so ironic how these two played. They got along. Years go by, one has animosity toward the other. And then you have Shaq and Kobe who, luckily they were able to work things out.
And they were borderline family for a time there.
Yeah.
Talking about, I mean, extended through Marcus, but, it was...
yeah.
And one ex-wife, but still.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, I do want to ask you guys this. Keeping on the idea of the duos, which duo stands out more to you guys in this series? Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns, or Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox? Or if you want to put it in Stephon Castle, that's fine. I don't care which.
I think Fox is fair. Is fair.
Okay.
He's paid his
And
dues.
Zach, you used to cover Fox for when you covered the Kings. So what's your thoughts?
Well, I think you kind of answered the question in the way that you phrased it, right? Because you correctly spoke about how you can put in, like, Fox maybe is the answer, or the one that you go to, but he is one of several possibilities. Whereas in New York, it's Cat and Jalen. Like we talked about how big of a role Michael plays and how big of a role OG plays, but that duo is Cat and Jalen, and they've really found a way to gel and make it work. I think this is another situation where it's like Wemby's the most impressive player out of all of these, and it's a skill and a credit to him that you can effectively pencil in player X as that secondary person of the duo, but it takes away from the identity of the duo by doing so. But what I think is an interesting duo, if we're talking about this series, and it's supposed to be a trio, but I really do feel like it's a duo. That duo of Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart cannot sleep on that. If you are New York, like that has been tremendous for them. We talked about Josh Hart like very little bit as like kind of like the weak point in that star-studded cast in New York, but he's also the glue that holds New York together.
He's the dirty work guy.
Absolutely. He's the dirty work guy. Absolutely. Right. And he's the guy who they universally love to hate. Right. So if you listen to any of those Villanova guys talk about Josh Hart, they all hate Josh Hart, and they would die for him.
Yeah, he does some suspect stuff. Like after
he's a little sus. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So like they would. I mean, man, they every time he opens his mouth, they shake their heads, but at the same time, like they do anything for him, right? So I think that's like a really interesting. It's not from a talent perspective, maybe the most impressive duo to watch in this entire series, but if you're talking about two players like. That to me is like those OG like Villanova Knicks. And again, Michael obviously was a part of that addition, but I think him more so in that foursome when you bring in Dante DiVincenzo. Whereas
sad when they traded him for Cat. I mean, you had to, but like I didn't want them to.
Yeah, I can't add anything better than what Zach said. I think the Knicks, that duo is crucial, and Victor Wembanyama is guy 1A. Is there a 1B guy? Probably not, but you can plug in even Harper in a couple of years. You might say
it's the burden of greatness.
Yeah, it is the burden of greatness.
If they win, if the Knicks win, are Cat and Jalen Brunson the best duo in the NBA? Then
I don't know who I would put up, but I'm going to quickly say no.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah, no, I agree. I just wanted to see if you guys thought. Yeah, look, I think they're. Yeah, look, I mean. Until proven otherwise, until traded, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum would probably be up there higher than them.
That was great. We had some fun talking about the NBA Finals, which will be starting in, I guess, 2 hours. And Zach, thank you for joining us in this episode of Basketball Now and Then. Please tell everyone where they can find your stuff.
For sure. Yeah. Happy to join as always. You can find my stuff, my NBA coverage on Metro Philadelphia. And PhillySportsNetwork.com. You can find our Sixers coverage there, but on the beat. Boots on the ground in Philly for 4 years. So you'll get some analysis, some service level reporting, but also some nice in-depth coverage behind the scenes stuff as well. And then for college heads out there, I also cover Duke basketball and football for Duke Wire with USA Today. So as we're gearing up for yet another exciting Duke basketball season, be on the lookout for some of that coverage as well.
One of the most prolific yet professional beat writers, editors that I personally know. So, Zach, thank you for joining us.
Much love. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Lucas, where can we find all your stuff? Because you're prolific too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on here obviously all the time. So you can find, I'm writing more article content now. If you guys want to check it out, we are doing 5 players of X position and X. So right now we're doing the 2010s. We've already done point guards, shooting guards, and small forwards of players who don't have comparisons that need some. So check those out. You can find me here. You can find me on the Sixers Sense podcast. You can find me on Fansided's NBA page. You can also find me on 14 Rings and NFC's podcast. I am the Commander's co-host there with our friend Maurice as well.
Boo!
You're just mad because he's in France. By the way, he made a special appearance from France on 2 of that episode. Took over the broadcast.
I'm not booing him. I'm booing you because you're a Commanders fan. That's why I'm
get
booing.
Over yourself.
And you got a Tampa Bay shirt. Come on, man.
Oh, yeah. My mom lived in Tampa, and this is baseball, not football.
I got you. I got you.
I do got to add, while I don't know how long he's in France for, but if he does not find an opportunity to watch a Victor Wembanyama game of these NBA Finals in France.
Oh, that would be
That's
so
got to be an
cool.
incredible experience.
We got to message him now. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll message
he
him.
needs to go
That's
to a
good
local
point.
tavern and just enjoy
exactly.
it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
wearing a
yeah.
Sixers
Drink some
jersey.
wine. Yeah.
yeah. All right,
In his
so
finest Timothy Luwawu Cabarro jersey. Yes,
Ooh,
exactly.
TLC. Yeah.
Or Yabusele one. He's
Or Yabusele.
Yeah. That's a good pull.
Yeah.
All right. So on behalf of Zach Ciavolella and Lucas Johnson, I'm Uriah Young with basketball now. And then we do have another comparison on the way. We're comparing Kevin Garnett and Anthony Davis. So stay tuned for that. All right. Thanks, guys. And enjoy the NBA Finals, everyone. We'll catch you next time.
Later.